Rudy Dix, who is the head of the PMO in the presidency.
Thank you, Keo. Director General Dr. Petersen, thanks for those wonderful remarks. The two of us, together with the current DG of Water and Sanitation, were fairly instrumental in getting this going as part of the post-COVID recovery, which was under the Economic Recovery and Reconstruction Plan. And this has been an important part of our overall growth intervention going forward. And of course, building on that success, the team will provide updates as we go and show you what challenges we've had, and specifically some of the new areas of intervention coupled with existing reform programs that needs to be taken further and to its logical conclusion. They've asked me to do a couple of intro slides, but Duncan did that, so I'm going to try and be short, right? Because they'll give me dirty looks. As you know, I can potentially go on, given some of the excitement on this. So DG Petersen had spoken about the structural reform program and why it's been important. This is, of course, a cabinet adopted program, and I think it's quite critical for us, including the fact that Alia will emphasize the fact that cabinet has adopted the second phase as well. That's why we're launching it. But more importantly, given its political importance in trying to address some of the structural impediments to growth, the reform program is led politically by the Minister of Finance and the Minister in the Presidency, Minister Mbutso Ntshavheni. And of course, the Head of State, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, has taken full and overall political charge of the reform program. And I think that's an important part and the reasons for much of our success going forward. But many questions I've always asked, so why do you think this is very successful? And we point to the way we do the delivery model. Duncan, of course, has emphasized a sort of homegrown approach to delivery, and the emphasis to ensure that we keep track, we monitor, we develop specific detailed plans, we develop accountability mechanisms and reporting. So of course for us, it is about determining those priorities, and you'll see that again, and developing specific sets of actionable plans to be able to ensure that that does happen. Actionable plans around timeframes, holding people to account, feet to fire around those timeframes to be met. It's also iterative. That's just the design of this thing. So if we struggle to get to a particular point, we need to go back and forth, and for us to be able to design something that will achieve a desired outcome. Duncan had spoken about the convening power. We're quite critical in our blocking obstacles, and you'll see some of the work that we've done where it's easy to tick a box for a reform, and then of course there's limitations around specific issues relating to red tape, right? And for example, the energy reform or logistics reform requires for us to constantly monitor and look at other impediments that is needed to unblock that, And then performance management, as I say, we're rigorous around that. And for those who have followed our quarterly reports that we've done since the start in 2020, we provide an independent dashboard of the progress that we've made. We're quite frank and honest as the OV team in relation to that. And so, of course, that is an important accountability mechanism for us to be able to deal with that. You've seen some of this, but we've done a bit of modeling to try and determine the successes of phase 2 and its impact on the economy and society. First of all, I think in phase 1, we've been able to complete 94% of the reforms, or reforms that are still in progress and will continue into phase 2. We've been able to unlock about 500 billion rand worth of investment, most of that in the energy space. And this, of course, is being invested throughout in the economy, and would play itself out over the next few years in the short and medium term. Most importantly, DG had spoken about the importance around the energy reform, and when we had opened up private investment into energy generation by changing Schedule 2 and the rules, we have been able to unlock a total of 22.5 gigawatts. That's 22,500 megawatts of renewable energy projects that are there. And they're in different phases of development, of course. Some have already come on stream, others will come on stream during the course of the next few years going forward, and that's quite significant. Of the 22.5 gigawatts, that's probably about 400 billion rand worth of investments. That's important. So similarly, we'll see as we move towards the successes and implementation of the logistics interventions, we hope to see that kind of unlocked as Allianz Saw presents on those particular areas. We've also seen, for example, the reform that we've completed around telecommunications and the auctioning of spectrum has resulted in a significant decline in the cost of data, and that's quite important for both, society and for businesses that utilize digital and digital platforms, and the reduction of cost of 1.5 gigabyte data. One of the more important reforms, which has been always an obstacle and a challenge that has been raised consistently by many ministers and the president himself, has been about water use license applications. We've been able to reduce that quite significantly from 300 days to 3 months to 90 days. And this is an important reform. Some of the other aspects has been quite critical going forward. Reforms are showing results, and this is just a reflection of the process relating to a portion of the 22.5 gigawatts of renewable energy that we've unlocked. I think it's important just to show we have different data points. We present a data point here relating to the registration of projects that are required anyway by the new reform with the National Energy Regulator of South Africa. And you can see, of course, right now the amount of registered projects. And that's an important part, because the registered projects are the last step, right? And that's how we count this as important. That's the last step of all your approval and applications and permitting processes that is required. And that totals now over 9,500 megawatts. So I understand that the 22.5 is a whole series of different projects at different phases of the projects. We now count what is actually registered, which means that it goes into, from a business point of view, financial close. You then construct and you then decide on your commercial operation dates. And that's fundamental for us, because that shows that the reform has and continues to unlock significant amount of investment into that. I mean, there are other data sets, of course, and data points we track. The two associations, the South African Photovoltaic Association and the South African Wind Association, track also projects at various stages of development, and that is also quite significant because of the reform. And updated of those surveys show that about 134 gigawatts is currently in various stages of project development, and these are quite important for us to be able to consider going forward. Some recent milestones. So we've, whoops, I see there's an error there. There's a big light bulb there. Okay, ignore the light bulb, please, right? I think some important recent milestones that we haven't reported on, and the colleagues will expand on some of this. We've been able to, for instance, publish significant major private sector participation transactions in the logistics systems. And that RFI was issued by the Minister of Transport. They're quite critical around the iron ore corridor, the coal corridor, and the automotive and container intermodal corridors as well. We've been able to lay the groundwork, and the Minister of groundwork for independent transmissions projects. And you, of course, had noticed that the Minister of Electricity and Energy has issued the first determination for 1,164 kilometers of transmission lines. And this is an important part given the extent of that project in expanding 14,000 kilometers of transmission investment. This is the first project of its kind to be able to involve the private sector in developing and rolling out transmission. So we're able to get the gigawatts that are in project development into the grids and for electrons to be transported. NERSA, of course, has adopted regulatory rules for wheeling. This is important for private sector projects because they're not always behind the meter. They've got to build a plant, a generation plant, and they've got to then transport the electrons to the end customer. And this cuts across various municipalities, Eskom distribution and transmission, and the rules around how you wield that are quite important. NERSA has done this, and this is a key step to enable competition in the generations space. The Department of Home Affairs, of course, in supporting increasing tourism numbers, particularly from China and India, has made it slightly easier for tour operators and citizens from those important spots to travel to South Africa through introducing a trusted tour operator scheme. They are, of course, looking at, and the colleagues will expand on this, on the electronic travel authorization, a fully automated system to be able to ensure that we can do this seamlessly and through an electronic system going forward. This is quite critical for us and builds on the trusted employer scheme to try and ease intra-company transfers and make it easier for skilled people to come over. In this instance, we've introduced and applied the same principle, but for tourists to enter South Africa much more easier. And last of all, we've been working with the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs as part of the new phase of OV to reform and look at local government. The first part of that initiative is to release a discussion document, which is a policy white paper on, which we call a white paper, of course, on the process around local government reform, and that has been released for public comment. So we've been doing quite a bit of work in the back end, and I think it's important for us to be able to ensure and show that there's continued momentum, and we're sustaining that momentum by doing some of those things. This is just, I'm quickly going to go through this, but this just shows if we are focused, and as the DG says, we focus on the priority, we keep it concerted on core interventions that are going to support growth. This is what the Bureau of Economic Research has projected around growth on above baseline, and that's quite an important part of the work that we're doing. But we've got to keep discipline. We've got to ensure that we performance manage. We've got to keep focus and not dissipate. There's always the risk of adding many things, but we think OV2 has to refocus, it has to continue its limited prioritization, and those priorities must be determined on the biggest impact on growth, employment, and investment going forward. So this is an important graph that shows the critical changes that can happen from a growth dynamic point of view if we continue to sustain that going forward. Thanks, Cleo. Did I go over time?
No.
Okay. I don't know if Saul or Alias next.
Alias next.